Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo, and today we're going to be talking about different combinations other than the two-shot explosive that are going to be great combinations that I would honestly say that should be within everybody's store. Now, again, I have some of these variants. I have almost all types of bloodied explosive weapons. I'm working on anti-armor explosive weapons. I'm working on a few different types of weapons that I'm going to be previewing to you guys in the future. But I don't have all the combinations just yet, so I want to be able to have everything and to give you guys the right information the first time. So we're going to get into it. The first kind of weapon type that I'm going to be saying, besides the two-shot explosive, because the two-shot explosive is going from a 200 percentile to 45 percentile, is a instigating variant type. Instigating doubles that damage if your target is at full health. Now, when you're doing the tag mechanic when it comes to Fallout 76, when it comes to PvP, you instantly get rid of the tag mechanic if their radiation is even at 1%, or you have, let's say, for example, you tag the person with that instigating weapon and they don't heal. So an instigating explosive variant won't be the best when it comes to a PvP situation because you won't even be using the instigating tag in the first place. What instigating explosive combinations would be good for is when you're actually doing PvE farming, doing anything besides the queen, and being in a sneak build when you're going to be killing things first shot. This is mainly going to be a very helpful build when you are solo, and it's going to have a lot of effects with like different perk values down the line, because you're still having the abilities to have a two-shot variant, but you're doubling the damage if the target is at full health. Other things that can promote this, especially with a VATS build, you would have an instigating explosive, probably VATS critical meter fills 15% faster, 25% less action point cost, or you have a variant like the 15% faster reload or 90% reduction. There's also other things that can help, like plus perception, plus agility, and I don't know if there's a strength variant, but I know that there are perception and agility when it comes to this kind of tree when it comes to ranged weapons. Another kind of combo that could be good is also a instigating VATS, which is VATS critical shots do 50% more damage, because if we're going to be basing it off of better calculations of damage that you can possibly have after the nerf, you're going to be having a 50% plus a 2 times damage. So you have a 150 percentile with the weapon at that point with a VATS build, compared to having a Demo Expert 5 card and then wasting that kind of ability when you are mob killing, mob hunting, doing those kinds of things when you're around the world, negating the fact that you need to put 5 points into Demo Expert 5 to put some type of balance into this. So, other types of weapons that are still going to be effective is two-shot explosive weapons, of course, but especially the shotgun variants. Now, if you already have a quad explosive shotgun, a two-shot explosive shotgun, or something of that caliber, it's not going to be as effective, especially if your main crutch is shooting the ground and trying to kill the queen. It's not going to be as effective as it once was with taking chunks of her health out, so you're going to need a different type of variant. Those types of variants, which I've been personally working on, is a bloodied explosive combination. Now, when you are min-maxing, a bloodied weapon is a very, very valuable combination. When you are completely min-max and you are having around 10%, 15% of your health, and you are having a full unyielding build, and you are having, let's say, a strength weapon in this category, that weapon damage scales. I don't know if they fixed it for perception, but I know that it is actually being better if it's a bloodied weapon type on top of having a unyielding sentinel build, so that you can actually do a good amount of damage when it comes to killing things like the queen. Now, the only reason why that you would possibly be min-maxing is because of the queen. There's no other reason why you really need to have a bloodied build to one-shot everything to feel like a god, except for with queen killing or something like that. And especially with these new danger zone things that were leaked out, possibly could be something that we could be experiencing. And especially because of the Bloody Explosive combo is so strong at this point, especially with min-max builds, that it's worth having it. Even if you go to half of your health and you lose half of your HP with a Bloodied Explosive combination, you could still possibly one-shotting most players in the game, especially if you make sure that you up your endurance, or you have like a unyielding sentinel with plus endurance all pieces, or you have a assassin sentinel with plus endurance with all pieces. Again, a very strong combo with having, especially if you do PvE or PvP combinations. Again, it's a really good one when it comes to my book. Again, if you're going for like the best of the best damage after the patch, personally, what I would say is that if you're going for a single target, a bloodied, VATS critical shots do 50% more damage, plus perception for ranged weapons would actually be one of the best combos that you can possibly have when it comes to a VATS like min-max bloodied build. And it's going to be a very great combination that you can possibly have when it comes to actually experiencing like a PvE, maybe PvP environment. If you're going to be like always in a stealth boy mode, like there's a few things that are going to be interesting, and there's going to be unrateable bases that I'm going to be showing once PvP servers do come out. So the next few things that are going to be in this list is a anti-armor. Anti-armor is a very good prefix combination that you can possibly have, because why? It ignores 50% of your target's armor. And this is going to be very important, especially in PvP environments. Now, TLDR point, the explosive variant of this anti-armor explosive means that it completely negates the anti-armor effect. This is most likely a very bad bug when it comes to this kind of stuff, but it doesn't work as intended, because then you would have 40% and then 50% armor negation, and it kind of bugs it out, and I don't know why. So currently, the better way and the better combination that you could possibly have when it comes to this kind of build is a anti-armor limb damage build. If you're going to be doing some type of PvP, if somebody's not a pure PvP build, or you're going to be having a anti-armor VATS critical shots do 50% more damage build in order for you to do a lot more damage. Of course, bashing is not needed at 40%. It's really dumb. Honestly, I have no reason why most people would want to have bash. 25% increased fire rate would actually be used for more heavy weapons, so it sounds like it's just dun 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 dun. This would be very good for the 50 cal if it was a bloodied 50 cal, not an anti-armor. I don't really think an anti-armor 50 cal would be good, but I think it would be okay. So I'm going in the points that I would say an anti-armor VATS would be okay for a 50 cal, or a Gatling. One of those weapons would make it to be extremely cheap for it. The other one would not be as much. So in the prefix of thinking for like a handmade, for example, an anti-armor explosive handmade, one of those that I personally have would actually be good in the future if it actually worked. Okay, this is very important, and again, this is going to be like in the new series that I'm going to be still showing off as different weapon types and other things. Now, finally, there is going to be a few other things, and this is why I'm going to be mentioning them, is Assassins. Assassins is still a raw 10% damage modifier, and honestly, 10% is pretty good when it comes to PvP, and especially if you don't have a bloodied weapon, or you choose not to min-max, or especially because instigating, you have to tag somebody, so it's not going to really work unless you have full PvP out the door, no matter what. An instigating explosive weapon would actually be very viable, especially not versusing a Assassin Sentinel, or a Unyielding Sentinel, or a Vanguard Sentinel if they have full health, Bolstering Sentinel if they're mid-maxed, or in combination of in between, especially with like Cavalier as well, because they both have the same effect. If I keep saying Sentinel, it's just because it's just easier for me to say. Other combinations that are going to be really good, which I personally still think that they're going to survive after the patch, is Quad Explosive. Quad Explosive is going to be a combination that you can possibly have in better culminations, especially if you want to put a lot of rounds down range, or if you want to carpet bomb something so that you can get a lot of damage done. It still will be working very well with the shotguns because you have like quadruple the ammo capacity compared to double the ammo capacity when it comes to most of this stuff. Now, the reason why Zealot, Exterminator, Hunters, Mutant, Ghoul, Troubleshooter, Executioners, even, like, these are not really good combinations, especially when you put them all together. Like, Executioners does not do too much damage. It's 50% more, okay? Instigating on the first shot does more. Executioners would be okay for only pretty much the Queen. And, again, it's only a 40% more buff. I mean, a 50% more buff when she's below 40%. So it's not really going to work that well. And Stalkers is only if you're not in combat. So sneak builds can be really good with that kind of combination, but it becomes mindless when it comes to that you have to have a, like, stealth boy. You pop the stealth boy, and then you make sure everything else is good like that. It's just not going to be well. Of course, Nocturnal as well. Mutant is... I mean, everybody's mutated, so it's pretty much the same precipice as Assassins. Junkies can be another good one, and this is why I say Junkies, is that I think possibly you can have 3 or more withdrawal effects. And especially with that part by being, I know at least 3. So Junkies is a good one because you can have 3x more damage, but you have to be having 3 different types of withdrawals. So once you have 3 different types of withdrawals, and you're within that withdrawal period, and you're actually addicted to those things, and you're withdrawing from those things, then you can be doing 3x more damage. That also coincides with the explosive effect. So once you have, let's say, for example, you have Demo Expert 5, right? And you have the new effect of 20%, so 20, 40%, and it would also scale with the Junkies effect. Then you would have 3x on top of that. So then you would be doing 4, 8, 12. You'd be doing 120% more damage with the calculation of Junkies, especially if you're doing to have a Junkies explosive. Same thing scales for the major one, which would actually coincide with that. Again, these are actual modifiers that people could actually be seeing. Now, Junkies is still not a very recommended thing because it requires you to be addicted to chems. Then you have to have withdrawals from the chems. And then there's a timer that goes away from it. So if you're going to be doing a queen, there's not really a lot of time before the queen really dies. I think you start getting the withdrawal effects at the very end if you pop all the stuff at the beginning. Again, don't quote me on that one because I've never really experimented with Junkies. So I'm just spitballing all these types of ideas that you could possibly be having in order for you to do the best that you can possibly be. Now, Berserkers, I don't really like Berserkers, especially because, especially in a Sentinel or Cavalier set, you're just damage resistance is through the roof, and it doesn't matter whatsoever. So again, this is why I would say the best prefixes that we're going to be having post-patch are going to be Bloodied Explosive, Instigating Explosive, or Instigating Fat's critical shots do 50% more damage so that you can get everything else done. Same thing with Bloodied. Furious Explosive, because again you're going to be stacking and doing more damage that is increased for each consecutive shot. Anti-armor VATS, as well as Junkie Explosive, but it's very niche based, especially because there's going to be so much reduction for the 2-shot capability. Again, when it comes to most of the mobs that are going to be in the game, they're going to die very quickly. Very, very quickly. So it's going to be a case of, like, what are you going to be using for, like, if you want to be PvPing people, What are their damage modifiers versus your damage modifiers? What is these different types of weapons versus those different types of weapons? It's going to be a very niche situation when it comes to most of this type of setup. And it's going to be something that's going to be very in particular in these kind of cases. If you guys like my analysis when it comes to this, or maybe I'm wrong, okay, maybe I'm completely wrong here, but I know most of this I'm kind of right on, especially with the bloodied builds with PvE. If you guys like this content, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. If you really like my content, please get to my Patreon. And if you want to see some new cool stuff, I mean, personally, I would like to be able to get the next Ryzen at 5 gigahertz with 16 cores. If that is actually a thing, I'll be so ecstatic in order for to actually get that. I mean, crap. I mean, it's going to be a good day for Ryzen once that actually comes out around summertime or sometime this year. It's going to be great. I mean, it's probably going to be a great year for gaming, honestly, whether you're on console or freaking like PC or anything else like that, because they have leaks of the PS5, and then there's the new Xbox. Sorry I'm on a rant, okay? I'm just saying, I'm really excited for gaming, especially with all this new shit coming out. Have a good one, guys.